Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, whenever you're watching this. This is Floating in Dreams. Today's video is going to be all about how you can find the perfect eyeshadow palette. Welcome to everyone watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Today's video is going to be a video where I'm going to chat to you about some questions that I like to ask myself when I purchase a palette, and hopefully those questions can help you when you are looking to make an eyeshadow palette purchase. I feel that as a beauty community, we talk a lot about the things that are out there and reviewing products and saying whether something's good or not, but we're not taking anybody through the process of, should I buy this, yes or no, and what goes into buying a palette. So I sort of had envisioned this video as a bit of like a guideline of like questions to ask yourself when you are making an eyeshadow palette purchase. I think this can be a list of things that you can use for any sort of makeup purchase, and maybe that can be helpful in that way. So it's not necessarily about like palettes particularly here, it's just sort of like more a general idea of like, if I buy an eyeshadow palette, what are some of the questions I ask myself before I get to buying the product and what goes into it for me. In case you're new here, hi, my name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I like to come on here to chat about eyeshadow palettes, essence and Catrice reviews, and getting the use out of my makeup. And because I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, I deem myself a snow angel. So if you'd like to join the Snow Angel Club, then definitely hit subscribe below, and let's just get to this video. So yeah, so finding your perfect palette. So what goes into the way I buy eyeshadow palettes and how I decide whether I want to get something or not, and maybe that can be helpful. I have 6 steps in the process that I have sort of put in here as things to consider when you're making makeup purchases, and especially eyeshadow palette purchases. So my first step here would be, what is your budget? So when it comes to eyeshadow palettes, I mean, of course, I'm like trying things out for the channel and keeping you up to date with things, but budgeting is something that I think goes into any purchase you make. So what can you afford? Can you afford it now? Can you afford it next month? Is this something you want to save up for? Those are all questions that I think you need to start off with, because you can look at a really stunning Pat McGrath palette, but if that makes you going into overdraft, which you don't want, then maybe not right now, you know? So I definitely sort of put things on wish lists. That's where my wish list pretty much comes in. And then I sort of like spread the purchases out over time. And then, you know, when something has been announced or whatever, I usually have a bit of budget for like the I need to get this right now kind of purchases. But definitely some questions here to ask yourself is it on sale? I like waiting for sales, especially with those more expensive Pat McGrath things. I think I've only bought one Pat McGrath palette at full price, and everything else I got during sales, and she usually does 30% off. So with Pat McGrath, it's better to just wait and really wait for a sale. Or maybe you can get a discount or a coupon code. Very often if you use a website for the first time, you can get a certain percentage off. Or maybe if you've been a member for a while, Cult Beauty does this all the time where they send you coupons. So it can be good to sign up to a few newsletters. I know that some creators will also like have coupon codes or discount codes. I personally don't really use those. I always forget. I always forget that people have affiliate codes and that you can use them to get discounts. Who am I? But yeah, I definitely wait usually for like the store to have some sort of promotion or the brand, and then buy through them directly. What you also need to take into account here in terms of your budget is the availability of the product. So I live in the Netherlands, I already said it in my intro, and I live in a country where a lot of makeup brands just aren't sold. I can get a lot of things, but I have to go online, which means I'm gonna have to pay for shipping. And if it's from outside of the EU, I'm gonna have to factor in just the fact that I'm gonna have to pay shipping and handling fees when it goes through customs, which luckily those costs are a little bit more controlled right now. It's a little bit more insightful than it was a couple of years ago. It was like always like this big lottery, like does the package go through? Does the package not go through? Right now you just pay for, I I think it's just VAT. It's like tax, really, what you have to pay for it. But I always like factoring in those costs already when I place the order, and like not like think about it. So for instance, I place an order with Sydney Grace during their Christmas in July sale. I tend to buy from Sydney Grace only like once a year because they charge you $30 for just shipping to Europe, which, I mean, it's very expensive. And then luckily they now have you prepay the taxes. So I was already able to pay it at checkout, which very often makes it less expensive if brands offer you the option or force you to pay it in advance. It means it won't be held up at the border, yay. And two, you don't have to pay for the like handling fees of the postal office. So you don't have to pay again for like your local postal office calculating the cost, because that's essentially what they charge you for as well. So I find that usually works out a little bit cheaper. I know Beautylish does this as well. At least you have the option to turn that on when you're at checkout to prepay them in advance. And very often it's only a couple of dollars extra rather than paying for the full thing. I know that Beauty Bay has just calculated into the price of the product. So Beauty Bay is located in the UK, and for them to like get the products to you, if you're in the EU, ever since Brexit, they have just upped the prices a little bit. So you, by buying the products, you're essentially just paying for the shipping and handling and fees in advance. So yeah, but that you need to factor in whenever you're buying something. It's like, where can I buy it from? What is going to be cheapest? And I have held off of buying certain products very often because I know I'll, for instance, be traveling somewhere and then I won't have to pay for things. So I will very often book trips to a place like Paris, to a place like London, to a place like New York, not just because I want a trip, but because I like going to those cities as well. Plus it gives me the option to buy brands that I will not buy. I remember a couple of years ago, oh, it's almost a decade actually. Oh my, I'm getting old. But in 2014, I did an interrail trip across Europe. And I also found myself in some countries that I hadn't been to before, or that I hadn't been to as a makeup enthusiast. So I went to Prague, which is in the Czech Republic. And there I found lots of drugstore gems that, you know, I just couldn't buy anywhere else. It's great to go to Germany sometimes to just find some things there as well. So I love going to other places just to see what they have and then try things out as well. Because very often it's drugstore products that you can't buy online. It's very often the more expensive brands that are stocked at like online retailers, but you can't find a lot of drugstore things usually. So yeah, I tend to like plan my vacation so I can buy makeup. Does that sound crazy? Maybe that's a bit crazy, but yeah, that is what I do. Step 2. If you're deciding what palette to buy, does it suit your lifestyle? And this is a concept I hear a lot of people raving about when it comes to like what fashion items you should buy. So fashion bloggers talk about this. Like, do the clothes you buy suit your lifestyle? Like if you have a lot of going out tops but you never go out, what's the point? But I feel we need to apply this concept to makeup as well. So if you have a lot of like, I don't know, bright colorful neon cake liners, but you work as a nurse and you can't wear any makeup to work, is that then going to suit your lifestyle? Unless, of course, on the weekends, that's when you go all out with your makeup and that's when you use it. So I think we need to just take into account not just what is hyped up in the beauty community, but also, does this palette go with my aesthetic and does it go with what I like to do in terms of makeup and how I live my life? Because if you don't, then you know, you're just never going to use it. So some questions to ask yourself here is, are you a busy person? Like, I like doing my makeup before I head out the door to work, but I don't have time to spend an hour blending out an eyeshadow. So I need something that's quick and easy to use, which is why I still love my Urban Decay naked palettes, because they're quick and easy to use. I know exactly what's gonna look right on me when I use those palettes. I know how it works. I know how much time I need to spend blending. It's lovely. Are you trying to do makeup artistry? Is that your aim? I think that you have a very different collection of makeup if you're trying to be a makeup artist rather than just a makeup enthusiast like myself. I know that sometimes people sort of confuse those things, like everybody is doing makeup online, so you need to do these like graphic looks or whatever, but that's not me. I've tried those things. I can do a cut crease, I can. It just takes a long time on these hooded deep set eyes to make that look at least like presentable, and then in real life it just looks crazy. So, and I'm not someone who goes around and does like other people's makeup. I've done it from time to time, like if friends have asked me to help them out. I did my best friend's sister's wedding makeup, and like I've done makeup on other people for sure, but it's not my go-to. It's not my day-to-day like what I do. So that's why, like, I don't need like a foundation in every single skin color. I just need a foundation that matches me. I still have too many, but that's because I try it out for the channel. I wouldn't have this many eyeshadow palettes if it wasn't for me having reviewed eyeshadow palettes for the past 10 years. And then hanging on to the things I love. Because that's how I end up with so much stuff, because I just hang on to the things I love. And that's it. But yeah. Are you wearing makeup for school or work? I mean, that's definitely going to factor into things what you can wear. I mean, not every workplace will accept very bright eyeshadow colors. I mean, I've usually worked in places where that's not a problem. I mean, I tend to just wear bright blue eyeshadow to work. I mean, people usually figure out pretty quickly, there's that lady again with a bright red lip and a blue eyeshadow, you know? That's just who I am. So it kind of goes. Nobody has ever really made a comment about it in a negative way. Everybody always just likes it that I'm a little bit more outspoken in my fashion and makeup choices. But yeah, I think there is a lot of workplaces that have dress codes where you just can't do certain things, also with makeup. So that's something you need to factor in. Then we have the third step of things to consider. And now we get to the fun stuff, because this is the color story that suits your needs. So of course, again, in my case, I review things, so sometimes I'll just buy things to review. For instance, the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 2 is a color story that I found very interesting, because I just want to see whether it's too warm toned for me or not. So in terms of like a review, it made a lot of sense for me to buy it, but maybe not for you. So when it comes to colors, is there something you want to try out? Is there something you would like to venture out more, or is it just another palette that you want to buy to have a backup of something, or maybe you're running out of certain things and that's what you want to get? So there are very many different options or reasons why certain color stories might work for you. For instance, a couple of years ago, I made a point of trying more colorful eyeshadow just to put myself in a different headspace, push myself out of my comfort zone, because I am a neutral girl at heart. Like, give me a neutral and I'm happy. But I was like, I need to try and see if I can make colorful eyeshadow work for me. And so I bought quite a few colorful eyeshadow palettes, which by now I've decluttered quite a few of those as well. But I just wanted to try more colorful eyeshadows just to see what would work. And that's what I did. So for a while there, I was trying a lot of colorful things. Now I've reverted back a little bit more towards like neutral things, and you know, formulas change and things are brought out continuously. But yeah, if you do buy a neutral palette, do you want it to be cool toned? Do you want it to be warm toned? And here as well, we have trends. So there are periods in time. I feel a couple of years ago, we got quite a lot of cool tones all of a sudden. And all of a sudden, there were true neutral palettes again, rather than these overly warm toned, orange toned, saturated things. Maybe you want a palette that's a one-stop shop, so you want something really small, or maybe you want something really big, so you have 30 shades and you never need another eyeshadow palette in your life. So those are all questions that you need to ask yourself when buying an eyeshadow palette. Through trial and error, I have found that I like smaller things. I think that what's perfect for me is up to like 15, 16 pans, and anything that is bigger than that, I kind of just feel overwhelmed and I don't know what to pick, which is why I never really got into Morphe palettes. I've never bought any of those until they released the Vault from in collaboration with Jaclyn Hill, because that was 4 separate palettes and we only got like what, 10 or 12 shades in each palette. That works for me, but these big like 32 pan palettes, it just wasn't for me. So I knew that pretty much straight away. So yeah, that brings me to step number 4. What size palette is practical for you? Do you travel a lot? Like, I had a period in my life where I had to go to a different place, where I had to stay the night for work quite regularly, and I don't feel like bringing a super big palette then, you know? Maybe you're taking a lot of trips to begin with. Maybe you stay at a partner's place a lot, or maybe you have sleepovers with girlfriends, or whatever it is that you're doing. If you're not at your makeup vanity a lot, you're probably going to want other things than when you have a full vanity that you can utilize for doing your makeup. Maybe you don't have that much space in your home to apply makeup. If you're someone who's doing makeup at your bathroom counter, maybe you don't have the space on your countertop to lay out this really big palette that, you know, is going to fall down the sink, and then your shadows break and whatnot. So I think you just should look at it at a very practical sense. I mean, I feel that when palettes get too big, I can't lay them out flat and I need to hold them. And I don't like that. I want to be able to lay my makeup palette flat on a table so there can be no accidents. So that's, again, another reason why I just want something that's small enough, and that if I can fold back the flap, if it's like, especially if it's like a fabric, that I can fold it and lay it down on the mirror, then the palette also doesn't get dirty. So yeah, those are all things I think we need to take into consideration. Then step number 5, what kind of formula are you looking for? Do you want a buildable formula? Do you want something that's super duper full on pigmentation? Are you someone who prefers more mattes, more metallics? Do you like textures? Do you want things to be super foily and glittery? Or do you like something that's a bit more satin? Do you like there to be different textures within one palette? Do you like having a liner, like cake liners or something like that in there? So those are all questions, again, that I think you need to ask yourself. Again, through trial and error, I have found that I prefer an equal shimmer to matte ratio, or just slightly fewer shimmers over mattes. I just think that with like 2 or 3 good mattes, I can do a full-on look. It's the shimmers that make it fun for me. So that's why I prefer shimmers over mattes, and I prefer a buildable formula, precisely because I need to be able to do my makeup really quickly in the morning. I just want to slap it on and be done, you know? If the pigmentation is too full on, I find I need to spend more time blending, and it just doesn't look very nice on me. I am a little bit more mature. I have deep set hooded eyes. I'm in my late 30s. I've got crepey, creasy eyelids. You're just going to need other things if you're no longer like in your teens or 20s and you have super smooth lids. I'm pretty sure you will love the full-on pigmentation if that's you. But if you are a little bit older, you may also want to go for different formulas just to make sure you have less fallout and that things actually stay on your lids. That's what I would do. And then step number 6, once you've answered all those questions, you've gone through all these steps, it's time to decide what brand you want to buy this palette from. What brands sell the kind of palette you are now looking for, and where can you buy it from? Is this a ready-made palette? Or maybe the thing you are looking for is just something you need to buy as singles. That's, again, something I feel too few people talk about on here, because it's all about ready-made palettes, but ready-made palettes aren't the be-all and end-all of all makeup. Do you want to go through the drugstore? Do you want to buy high-end or luxury? Like what, again, the budget comes in here as well. And are you willing to pay that price at this moment in time, and can you get it? Like, if I see people raving about like a new eyeshadow palette, and very often these are like by indie brands that I haven't heard from yet, or for instance, Cliona has just relaunched and extended their stained glass shadows, and I looked at those swatches and I loved it, and I was like, at this moment in my life, I do not need more multi-chrome singles. Even though I love putting multi-chrome singles in my custom singles palettes that I've been creating for you once a month. So I love my multi-chromes, and I love my Cliona multi-chromes, but I don't need every single multi-chrome on the planet. And, you know, I just don't think that that is something that I need to put my money towards right now. So maybe later. So very often what I will just do is I have this file on my computer. I have a Word document that I've called Makeup Wishlist. And when I see something that sparks my interest, I just pop it on there. And sometimes the motivation for me is to create a video with, sometimes it's to just try it out, or maybe it's a new launch, or sometimes it's just products that I want to keep an eye out for that are out of stock. For instance, when Lisa Eldridge, like some of the lipsticks that I wanted to get from her were out of stock, I was like, I'm just going to keep an eye on her brand and see when she restocks these lipsticks, and then I can buy them. So I will try and sort of manage things that way. And I just have a running list of things, and very often I put things on there and then I take them off again. That's the way it just goes. Just because it's on the wish list doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna buy it, but it's sort of like potential, hypothetical, this is what I would like to get. And sometimes things are on there for more than a year and then I decide to not buy it in the end. That's just the way it goes. But yeah, this is the way I like to go about it. These are the questions I would ask myself and the steps I would take to take into consideration whenever buying a palette, and not get sucked in by the pretty packaging, by the hype online, because I think that that's something that we don't need. So let me know in a comment down below if you have any additions to the list. Maybe I've forgotten to go over any steps. That's of course possible. What is your thought process when you are purchasing eyeshadow palettes? This is just mine. So I thought this was a different video for me to do, and I hope you really enjoyed it. So thumbs up the video if you liked it, subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I have more eyeshadow palette related videos coming for you, of course, later this month, because this entire month is dedicated to eyeshadow palettes. I hope you'd like to stay tuned for more, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye!